Most people think Americans come from England, but that's not actually true. The largest ancestry group in the United States isn't English, and the real ethnic map of America is far more surprising than most people realize, and most Americans never learn this in school. So, if Americans are not mostly English, then where do they actually come from? The answer turns out to be far more complicated than most people expect. Because when you look at the data, the story of American ancestry starts to look very different from the one most people imagine. And the first surprise is this. The most commonly reported ancestry in the United States is German. More than 40 million Americans trace their roots back to Germany. That makes German ancestry more common than Irish, Italian, Polish, or any other European background. For a country that began as British colonies, that result surprises a lot of people. You would think the United States always had an official language. After all, the country began as British colonies. Its laws were written in English. Its courts operated in English. Its schools taught in English. So it seems obvious. But here's the strange part. For more than 2 centuries, the United States actually had no official language at all. Not in the Constitution, not in federal law. The country simply functioned that way. Only in 2025 did English officially become the language of the federal government. And when you look at what happened inside the country during those centuries, the story of American identity becomes even more surprising. During those same centuries, something remarkable was happening inside the United States. People from all over the world kept arriving. From Europe, from Asia, from Africa, from Latin America. And they brought their languages with them. Today, linguists estimate that more than 500 different languages are spoken across the United States. That makes America one of the most linguistically diverse countries on Earth, which raises another surprising question. If so many languages, cultures, and histories exist inside the same country, how did they all become part of a single American identity? Most people imagine American identity in just a few broad groups: white Americans, Black Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic or Latino Americans. Those are the categories most people recognize. But the reality is far more complex. When researchers analyzed the detailed results of the 2020 U.S. Census, they identified nearly 1,500 different racial and ethnic groups reported by Americans, which means the identity of the country isn't built from just a few major populations. It's built from hundreds of different histories, cultures, and family origins that all exist inside the same nation. Many people learn in school that American history begins with the Pilgrims. In 1620, a group of English settlers arrived at Plymouth Colony. It's one of the most famous moments in American history. But something important had already happened more than a decade earlier. In 1609, Spanish settlers established a community in Santa Fe, in what is now New Mexico. That means Hispanic communities were living on what is now U.S. territory before the Pilgrims ever arrived. And after several generations, something else often happens in America. Family origins start to fade. Ask many Americans where their ancestors came from, and the answer is often uncertain. Some might say Irish, others might say German or Italian. But for millions of people, the exact story has simply been lost over time. After centuries of migration, intermarriage, and movement across the country, many families no longer know the full details of where their ancestors began. There's one idea that many Americans have heard their entire lives: the idea of the melting pot. It suggests that people from different countries, cultures, religions, and languages all came to the United States and slowly blended together into something new. Today it sounds like a political phrase, but it didn't begin in politics. It began in a theater. In 1908, a playwright named Israel Zangwill wrote a play called The Melting Pot. The story followed a young Jewish immigrant who had escaped violence in Europe and arrived in New York. Standing in the city, surrounded by people from dozens of different countries, the character declares something remarkable. He says, "America is becoming a great melting pot, a place where all the peoples of Europe are melting together to create a new civilization." The idea captured the imagination of the country. At the time, millions of immigrants were arriving in the United States from all over the world. From Italy, from Germany, from Poland, from Russia, from many other places. For many Americans, the melting pot seemed like the perfect way to describe what was happening. Different cultures mixing, different languages blending, different traditions combining into something new. But over time, historians and sociologists began to question the metaphor, because the United States didn't always behave like a melting pot. Some cultures didn't disappear. They stayed visible. They stayed distinct, which led to another way of describing the country. Instead of a melting pot, some scholars began to call America a salad bowl. In this idea, cultures don't melt together into one single identity. Instead, they remain different, but still exist side by side in the same society. And that may explain something important about American identity. It was never created by one people. It was shaped by waves of migration, generations of families, and countless stories that all arrived from different parts of the world. Which is why American identity can sometimes seem complicated, but it may also be what makes it unique. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy exploring surprising stories about history and identity, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories like this still to come.